let's use Leonardo da Vinci before we go to your part. So I think really, as a fan of Leonardo da Vinci, I think you touch really a lot of important things that I think for people listening to us are really critical. In history, they were always critical, and we have to see that during, of course, the Renaissance, he could die actually from any disease, and the average lifetime was 20 years old. 22. You have to see Lorenzo, for instance, Lorenzo de Medici, which became in history as one of the most powerful financial innovators in history, and as well as a mecenas and actually a writer as well. He actually died when he was less than 30. So we have to see all these challenges. So Leonardo da Vinci, of course, he was a force of nature and he effectively changed the world. He only did 15 paintings, and each of his paintings is worth around 100 to $500 million each. So even the last one that was found, that was, no one knows that it's completely from him, but 90% of people think so. It was sold for close to $500 million. So let's look at what you just said. So this capacity of reinvention and the capacity to understand yourself, independent of all the challenges. And I think one thing as well that you just said is somehow, I think there's different words though to say that, but is in the end of the day, you have to, there's the word reinvention, and there's the word kind of dismantling. So you have to dismantling the myth. You have to dismantling the layers of, for instance, there's a quote that I love from Noah Harari, that is that every culture is an operating system. And all of us, if you are in Latin America, if you are in North America, if you are in Canada, if you are in Europe, if you are in France or UK, is completely different from you if you are in Spain or Portugal or Italy. There's nuances that really can actually somehow make your life immediately. And of course, we're lucky because both you and me are in the Western world. But if you go to Asia or Africa, you have a lot of other stigmas to go through. But well, let's look at this part of dismantling the myth, which you just did with Leonardo da Vinci. I think this is really a key element for people that want to succeed. And I think there's a lot of studies about what makes you successful or not. And there's of course, there's the capacity to reinvent that you mentioned. There's the capacity of persistence or resilience. But I would like to work on this concept of, and I think it's a great title for a book, Dismantling the Myths, especially around big personalities like Leonardo da Vinci, which we cannot have something more powerful than that. So if you want to touch a bit this, especially as a coach, which is one area that you do for a lot of big corporations as well.
Yeah, I think that with Da Vinci, the key was that he followed his curiosities. And this actually goes back to his childhood. He was not raised like a regular child because he was born out of wedlock. So his father had him grow up in the countryside, away from the city, away from all of the friends and all of the people that respect him. And so his father didn't want anybody really to know about Da Vinci. So Da Vinci grew up with his uncle and also a little bit with his grandfather as well. And his uncle was like the black sheep of the family. This is like the person who didn't want to become the notary like every other Da Vinci, like they were supposed to be. They come from a long line of notaries, and this guy was like, oh, I don't like detail, I don't like this stuff, I don't want to do this, I want to live life on my terms. And that guy just, of course, ended up with a little bit of money where at least he had a piece of land and he could live somewhere and not have to worry about paying rent. And he was able to just, find odd jobs and do odd things to make money. Well, imagine this person raising a child and waking up every day, and the child says, what do you want to do? And then this guy says, what do you want to do? And he's like, let's go explore. Awesome, let's explore. And imagine for a moment a young Da Vinci, like any young kid today, seeing a bug on the floor for the first time, or like a weird species of a plant and all of that, and asking, what's that, uncle? What is that? I don't know. Let's find out, like a coach would. A coach would never tell you the answer. They would always ask you questions or say, empower you to go find the answer. And this is how Da Vinci grew up. A lot of times when people give him so much credit for his ability to draw so well and so accurately, came from his childhood when he wanted to study bugs and he wanted to study animals, and he had to cut them open in order to actually study them. The problem was that he had a race against the clock of animals decomposing on him. And if they decompose, he can't study them. So he had to learn. And of course, he did not have the benefit of an iPhone to take a quick picture of it and then just zoom in later and study it. So he's like, I got to draw this thing, and I got to draw it really fast and really accurate. And so through that practice, this guy builds that skill. The point I'm trying to make here is that Da Vinci was encouraged at a very young age to simply follow every curiosity. And he had the ultimate coach, his uncle, who simply said, let's figure it out together. I don't know. What do you think? young Leonardo. And then he would say, well, I think this. Well, let's go find out. And he was coached rather than taught. And that just allowed him to develop his curiosity at a level that could never really be taken away from him. And we see that throughout his life. All he did was follow his curiosities. If something intrigued him, fluid dynamics, hey, let's go study fluid dynamics for a little while. That sounds like fun. Or let's explore cooking. That sounds like fun. Or let's explore, I don't know, horticulture. That sounds like fun. He just explored whatever was interested in it. And I think that's what we can take away from him. And it's exploring curiosity. Like, how do we develop or reignite our curiosity? Unfortunately, school takes that curiosity away. Even back then, it took curiosity away. When Da Vinci's father finally realized, okay, this kid's getting older, he's a teenager, he obviously looks like me, people are starting to talk, I need to come clean with this and I need to bring him out. Otherwise, he's going to be this secret that everyone talks about me behind my back. So he brought him to a school in Florence and enrolled him in a high school, or more or less was probably the equivalent of a high school. And he got kicked out pretty quickly. Why? Because, of course, Da Vinci would ask his teachers, why? How is that? Can you explain that more? And look, just stop asking questions. It is what it is. Just write it down and stop asking questions. Finally, the father was like, dude, you got kicked out of school. Like, what am I going to do with you? And then he went to one of his clients and said, hey, can you take a look at this drawing? Tell me what you think. You know, you're an artist. Why don't you tell me what you think? And then boom, Leonardo got on his path to becoming an artist. Curiosity was the key. And we can learn this from him. How do we reignite that? We've gone through, almost many of us, especially in Western countries, have gone through a very similar type of education. How do we reactivate some of that curiosity that was taken away? And I think that's the key. And there's a lot of great research that I've been looking into for my second book on the psychology of curiosity. Like, I want to understand that. And I'm still a student of this, so I can't talk much about this because I'm still learning. But I am identifying the psychologists that focus most of their research on the psychology and neuroscience of curiosity, because I want to know, how can I help people actually put this into practice, understand themselves and their own curiosity better so that they can reactivate it and begin following that in order to figure out what their next project is going to be.
Amazing. And I think this is special. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. I think for everyone listening to us, is really a lot of wonderful things. And I think really the curiosity is the most important thing. Let's put it that way, because if you don't have curiosity, there's nothing you can do. You have to really want, and this is actually cultural as well, because some cultures kill the curiosity. For instance, if you are in Japan, you have to be much more about respect. And this really is a big thing, because it will stigmatize you for a lot of things, for good and for bad.